First, we'll take a look at the papers around the country. Now, Malcolm Farr, why are the News Limited papers running a page one headline this morning that says Kevin Rudd's goose is cooked?
There's lots of gooses around out there, and the insinuation is that the Prime Minister is the prime goose. Let's go through the timing of this issue that has occupied the front pages. Yesterday morning in Sydney, the Prime Minister had a press conference at which he said he would attend, words to the effect, he would attend a briefing on the situation in Syria, and it was very important that he do so. Twice he was asked by journalists whether he was abandoning the campaign to do this. In response to neither question did he say yes, he was abandoning the campaign.
Just before you go on, we will run that part of the news conference and then we'll pick it up. Let's have a look at when that question was asked.
So do you regard this as a temporary suspension of your campaign?
I regard it as a necessary and practical step to make sure that we are fully briefed on developments.
Right, so he didn't embrace that interpretation of it. That was a media interpretation on it, that he was suspending the campaign, but neither did he disabuse.
No, he didn't say, oh no, that's rubbish, so we're just taking it, diverting for a bit. OK, let's follow the contrails. He then went from Sydney to Brisbane, where between 12:30 and 2:30, essentially, he recorded a TV program, Kitchen Cabinet, to be shown on the ABC. He then had a 3 o'clock appointment, I don't know what that was, in Brisbane that he had to attend. And then he flew to Canberra, arriving at Canberra at about 6 p.m. He then went in at about 6:45 to the briefing, which included Foreign Minister Bob Carr, senior bureaucrats from his department and Foreign Affairs, the briefing on Syria. Now, the suggestion was that the Prime Minister had put off the Syria briefing so that he could record the TV show. Mr Rudd's office says that's not the case, that nothing was put off or delayed, that the Syria briefing was held as soon as possible, and that was as soon as the public servants and advisers could get the material together to give to the Prime Minister. They denied totally that he had this little side trip, that he'd foregone the briefing so he could have his little side trip for Kitchen Cabinet.
OK, Michael Stutchbury, why does this matter? Why do you think it's been given such prominence this morning?
Well, I think, the Prime Minister's strong suit is foreign affairs. He's wanted to give the impression that he's still in government. Foreign affairs, Syria is obviously a dreadful situation. The whole of the Arab Spring seems to be unravelling. And the papers have wanted to catch him out saying that he's really going towards more trivial things such as recording a program about cooking. So they're trying to bring out the hypocrisy of all of that. Of course, this is in an election campaign which has overridden the G20 meeting, which of course is very important for Australia, and Australia's hosting the G20 next year, but the election overrides that.
We'll have a look at part of the brief. Well, once the briefing got underway, they invited the cameras in. Here they are.
Well, the French are very forward-leaning on this, both in their public statements. And we saw Haig's statement earlier today.
Yeah. William Haig said a chemical attack by the Assad regime, which is pretty forward-leaning.
Well, we have a definitive statement from them, and the Americans are using the language of grave concern. So.
Andrew, are they... it's a problem because it's on page one of all of the News Limited newspapers, but are they entitled to feel that it's just part of an ongoing News Limited campaign?
Oh, well, I think that's the impression that they'll be left with. I think it is about this media interpretation as to what happened earlier on in the day. And, of course, some people woke up yesterday and heard the news that the campaign was being suspended. And it's the fact that the Prime Minister didn't disavow the impression that was the case, try and dispossess us of that case, that it became a bit of an issue. I think that that last piece of footage is hilarious because you cannot teach people to behave in a way that makes it look real, especially when you're really going to be discussing stuff that you can never discuss publicly.
All right, well, that's the main story in the Sunday paper, so we'll go straight to Canberra now, where we're joined by the Prime Minister, Kevin Rudd. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Barry. Thanks for having me on the program.
Do you at least accept that you left an impression that you were taking time out from the campaign to deal with the Syrian crisis?
Not at all, Barry. The bottom line is, if I hadn't taken the opportunity to alert the Australian people as to what was going on, I would have been criticised for that. Furthermore, when you look at statements made by the White House during the course of yesterday, It's very plain that when you have the President of the United States receiving briefings on appropriate responses from the international community and by the United States, a menu of responses to respond to the use of chemical weapons, I have a responsibility to make sure the Australian people are aware of that. I think the other point I'd make is just this. If in that press interview yesterday, I then went on to talk about the other issues in the campaign, in particular the National Broadband Network. So for me, the campaign continues, as was evident by what I did yesterday, which was to continue to campaign on the core issues affecting people in this election.
But part of the problem is you made that announcement at 10 o'clock, you then flew to Brisbane. It wasn't until 6 o'clock that you got to Canberra. The crisis has been going on in Syria now for days. Why did it take until 6 o'clock at night on Saturday night for the experts to get their act together?
Well, the experts and the officials and the advisors behaved entirely appropriately. When I spoke to the Secretary of the Prime Minister's Department yesterday morning, he advised me that it was appropriate that a briefing occur of myself and the Foreign Minister and others by relevant officials. Furthermore, he said that given the time gap with various other capitals around the world and the need to collate the relevant information from the intelligence agencies, the security agencies, from the Defence Department, from the Department of Foreign Affairs, that the earliest that such a briefing could productively occur would either be last night, Saturday night, or on Sunday. I said the best thing to do was to do it as soon as possible. He recommended, therefore, that we do it last night. That's exactly what happened. And I see in today's newspapers, from Mr Murdoch's newspapers in many parts of the country, stated in the front page that a national security briefing to ministers and myself was abandoned because of other commitments I had in Brisbane. That is 100% false. Had the newspaper bothered to contact my office, they would have known it was 100% false. And the journalist who wrote the story has gone out there this morning to say that their headline was false. I don't think it could be any clearer in terms of what has happened here.
Are you able to say what that other appointment was at 3 o'clock after you taped Kitchen Cabinet?
I had other appointments in Brisbane. They were of a private nature. I don't wish to disclose those, but they were long-standing and dealt with a whole range of matters involving various members of the community.
Well, on Syria now more generally, is there